Thank you, thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute.
Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
My mother is a former 8th grade English teacher, and she's very judgmental. Don't be so judgmental, mothers. Just love your child, okay? Just give him a little hug. She came to my show recently, and I told a very dirty joke. That's what I did. And the joke started like this. I said, recently, me and my girlfriend were doggy style. That's how the joke starts. And it gets a lot more dirty after that, but I'm not going to do it. After the show, my mother comes up. She is angry, distraught, embarrassed, a single tear's coming down her face. She looks me in the eye and she says, Michael, that should be my girlfriend and I.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, July the 30th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 strategies of war, and Donald Trump. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
In the prison cell I sit, thinking, mother dear, of you, and the bright and happy home so far away. And the tears, they fill my eyes, spite of all that I can do, though I try to cheer my comrades and be gay. The boys are marching, cheer up, comrades, they will come. And beneath the country's flag, we shall breathe the air again of a free land in our own beloved home. In the battlefront we stood when their fiercest charge they made, and they swept us off 100 men or more. But before we reached their lines, they were beaten back dismayed, and we heard the cry of victory o'er and o'er. Tramp, 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 the boys are marching. Cheer up, comrades, they will come. And beneath the country's flag, we shall breathe the air again of a free land in our own beloved home. Of the free land in our own beloved home.
Thank you. And now Stuart Barney with the headlines.
Good morning, Cheryl, and good morning, everyone. This is the big one. Microsoft, sometimes called the godfather of AI, it reports today. If you own stock, you probably have a piece of this company. You've done well. Now the company has to show that its massive investment in AI is paying off on the bottom line. The numbers are going to be released after the closing bell today. In advance of that, the stock has been moving up. Right now it's at 427. Fingers crossed, folks. Politics, the Kamala Harris honeymoon. She's still feeling the love of the Democrat Party, but she's flip-flopping, trying to cover her San Francisco liberalism. Sharp-edged Republican attacks have begun. The GOP is skewering her on the border. The first Trump-Vance ad says she's failed, weak, and dangerously liberal. Today, the Harris campaign launches a $15 million ad campaign. She heads to Atlanta, where she will appear with Megan Thee Stallion. The Democrats seem to have ditched the Trump is in danger to democracy talking point. It's been replaced by a single word. They describe Trump-Vance as weird. It's the Democrat word of the week. But star columnist Tom Friedman at the New York Times says using that word could be a big mistake. He says it's a put-down of the white, working-class, non-college educated men and women the Democrats need to win. Deplorables by any other name. To the markets, not much price change for stocks ahead of the Microsoft report later on today. The Dow down about 40, but the NASDAQ, with Microsoft moving up a little bit, up 60 points at this stage. Interest rates, they're edging lower. The 10-year Treasury coming in at 4.17%. The 2-year around 4.38. It's actually now moving up to 4.40 right now. Bitcoin, $66,000 and $600 a coin. No further bounce after Donald Trump's enthusiastic endorsement. Gold, around $2,400 an ounce, $24.31, up $6 today. Oil in the mid-70s, $75.01 to be precise. Gas down 1 cent, $3.49. Diesel unchanged, $3.81. On the show today, Biden and Harris push for radical reform of the Supreme Court. You don't see much enthusiasm for it in the media. It's widely dismissed as pure politics and very unlikely to go anywhere. It is a dud. I will bring you the story of the $5 billion allocated for electric school buses, a Kamala Harris favorite. Unfortunately, only 60 have been built so far. Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. Varney.
And that was Varney with the headlines. A word about weird. See, the Democrats understand that it's a popularity contest, and the idea is to try to make your opponent, your opponent less popular than your candidate. So that's where hence they come up with the word weird. Short, to the point, no facts. They don't have to have 3-ring binders to explain everything. Just weird. Now, my suggestion is that the counter be a word that Stuart Varney used here, and that's dud. They came up with this idea about the Supreme Court, and he described it as a dud. And I think that's a perfectly apt description for Kamala Harris. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now some Mafia action.
A lot of Colombo made guys and a lot of associates were walking on that line. They weren't happy about it. They said, look, what are we doing here? We're auditioning for the FBI. They're taking photos of us. They're seeing us. They're knowing who we are. There was a lot of dissension about walking on that line from made guys who were used to kind of staying in the shadows, staying undercover. I started to hear some rumbling about Joe Colombo, so on and so forth. And I'll never forget, there was a guy, Jewish guy, by the name of Artie Antrata. We called him Artie the Animal. And I heard him one day say, you know what are we doing here? We're marching. I haven't heard a word about my man Sonny. Nobody's trying to help him. How come they're not marching in for him? How come they're not mentioning his name? This is all about Joe Colombo, so on and so forth. And one of the other made guys said, hey, Artie, don't talk like that, keep it down. People hear that, they'll get the wrong impression. You might have some trouble. Artie said, I don't care. I love Sonny, and I'm only here for... I could have at some point said, I'm done. This is not for me. I don't want to do this. This is not the direction that I had planned in my life. My father would have probably said, okay. Wouldn't have forced me, wouldn't have made me get into it. But I said, no, if this is what he wants, this is what I'm going to do. And people have said to me, do you regret making that decision? I don't look back and have regrets like that, because it was such a life-changing experiences. I went through what I went through, and I regret certain things that I did as a result of that life, being involved in that life. I certainly regret hurting my family, being in prison for 8 years, putting my family through so many struggles and so many challenges as a result of the things that I did. I regret at times that people got hurt, and I knew about it, and I was involved in things. Of course, you regret certain things. Anyhow, these are the kind of things that I was starting to hear on that line. That line, as you may know, turned into the Italian-American Civil Rights League. Joe Colombo started to become, he came out of the shadows for sure, and he started to become very, very high profile. He was going on television. He was doing all sorts of interviews. People were getting upset about it. There was rumbling even from the other families. I heard, from somebody close to me that Carlo Gambino, who was still alive at that time, had sent word to Joe Colombo and said, this has got to stop. We're not used to this. We don't pick it. We don't do things like this. And Joe Colombo, the tagline for him was, there is no mafia. We're being harassed by the FBI. He was asked if he was the boss of the family. He said, absolutely not. There is no family. There is no mafia. And he kept saying that over and over again. In Little Italy in Cleveland, the first kind of mob that grew, of Italians that grew out, was called the Mayfield Road Mob. And so that's a famous section now in Little Italy. And that started in, I think, the 1920s, 1930s. It evolved into a very, very powerful group. And as a matter of fact, eventually they hooked up with Mo Dalitz, from the Jewish mob, Jewish syndicate. And they were doing, it was during Prohibition, so they were doing some, bootlegging together. They had gambling. I think they had even dry cleaning places, or laundromats, I should say, at that time. But they kind of made kind of a union. And when Mo Dalitz moved out to Vegas and built the Desert Inn casino, the Cleveland guys went out there with them. And they were kind of protecting that casino and Mo Dalitz from all the other mob guys. That's when Cleveland really was the first ones to get their stronghold, to get their foot in Vegas. And another important name, Jackie Presser. Now, you know who he was. He ran the Teamsters Union for many, many years, I think from 83 until his death in 88. And he was from Cleveland. His father was a union person before him. And then Jackie Presser became boss of the Teamsters Union, very powerful position. And was he mobbed up? Of course he was. After Hoffa, had some relationship with the mob. The story, you saw it. We're not going to go into that again. But Jackie Presser was definitely involved. And at one point in time, Jackie Presser was charged with making improper loans to casinos at the behest of the mob in Las Vegas. So again, Cleveland's presence in Las Vegas was big. It started with Mo Dalitz, and then Jackie Presser got involved, and they started financing through the Teamster unions. Let me tell you something. Vegas was built by the mob. Trust me. She said to me that they read the Bible together. They spent 3 hours together. They read the Bible, and he accepted Christ during that 3-hour session. And I had sent the chaplain in to see him.
But your father, did you ever bring that up to your father?
No. I said, how was your 3 hours with the chaplain? He said, oh, good. That was it. Like, he didn't get into any detail about it.
That's like old school.
Yeah.
I guess he was afraid to even look weak in front of you or say something in front of you.
Yeah, he might have viewed it as a sign of weakness. And one of my deepest regrets is I feel that I kind of failed him in that I didn't speak enough about God with him, to him. For some reason, Chaz, and there's no excuse. I mean, I should have been able to get beyond that, but it was so hard to talk to him about it. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Patriotic Shorts.
If your news outlet consistently reduces everything that happens in the world to who the president of America is, get rid of it. It's just thoughtless, reflexive team politics. Every problem in the world isn't caused by the president. Always be aware that once the news became a profit division of media companies, they stopped being in the news business and are now in the audience stroking business. The goal is no longer to inform opinions, it's to reinforce them, because they just want to manipulate you into clicking. Never trust the initial reports. The media cares way more about being first than being right. They love a scoop, but
when the total war ended, every city in America went nuts. I mean, I can't compare it to anything. It was great. So many mothers, so many wives lost their sons, their husbands. And those that made it home, can you imagine the parties that they had? In fact, my dad threw a big party on VJ Day when the Japs surrendered. And that's the first time in my life I got smashed. I really got smashed because I did not have to go. Nobody can understand that unless they were there.
She was serving as an army nurse in the Philippines when she was taken prisoner by the Japanese army only 3 weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. She was sent to the Santo Tomas internment camp in Manila, where she provided medical attention to other prisoners and smuggled food to those who needed it. She was Army nurse Ruby Bradley, and by the time the camp was liberated in February 1945, she weighed only 81 pounds, having given most of her daily rations to the children in the camp. The other POWs called her an angel in fatigues. After the war, Ruby continued her career in the Army, serving in a MASH unit in Korea and eventually being promoted to the rank of colonel before retiring in 1963. She is among the most decorated women in American history. Caring for others was my calling, said Ruby Bradley shortly before passing away in 2002 at age 94. I was proud to serve my country, to be there for those who needed us.
The new upgraded B-2 Spirit Realm is finally here. Let me explain. The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, which first flew in 1989, was designed to avoid detection and deliver nuclear weapons. But recently, war planners have said they are worried about its ability to go undetected and its high repair costs. However, with its new upgrades, the B-2 might have another chance. The B-2 now has an open mission systems software capability called Spirit Realm 1. This upgrade was made operational in July. Developed by the Air Force and Northrop Grumman, SR-1 improves the B-2's communication and weapons systems, making software updates faster and easier. The upgrade also includes better displays and flight hardware. Software updates used to take 2 years, but now they can be done in less than 3 months. But that's not all. The B-2 now has new precision-guided munitions that can be fired from even further away, meaning the B-2 doesn't have to be over enemy territory, except the B-2 fleet will be retired eventually.
I wish there was more I could do for my boys, she wrote home from Italy on Christmas 1943, the words smudged from her tears. She was Second Lieutenant Ellen Ainsworth, a nurse in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps, who volunteered to care for the wounded at the 56th EVAC hospital at Anzio, dubbed Hell's Half Acre because of how frequently it was bombed. She was off duty on the morning of February 10, 1944, but rushed to the hospital tent as soon as it came under heavy artillery shelling. Suddenly, a piece of shrapnel tore through the tent and pierced her chest. Bleeding heavily, she refused evacuation, instead helping to evacuate her patients. She saved dozens of lives that day, but her condition worsened. Lieutenant Ainsworth, along with 3 other nurses, would be the first women to ever receive Silver Stars from the Army, to go along with her Purple Heart. Sadly, Ellen Ainsworth would pass away 6 days later. Her last words were, "The Jerrys can get me, but they won't get my boys."
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, a little bit of motivation.
You're paying through so much to make you want to quit your journey.
When you embark this journey, you must know that it's going to go down before it comes up. But when it comes up, it's going to go so much higher than you've ever been. Sacrificing today for tomorrow's betterment. But if you didn't know that, you didn't prepare for that, you think something's wrong, maybe it's time to stop. No, it's time to move even further. You have to be equipped mentally to endure this process. Knowing what you're about to go into is step one. Knowing it's an uphill battle, but a winnable one and one that's achievable.
It's up to you to push past the pain. Because on the other side of pain is glory. It's rejoicing. It's happiness. It's winning. It's succeeding. You gotta understand, with no pain is no progress. You don't go through something, so you won't get nothing. And you choose whether or not that journey is gonna hurt you or make you stronger. I remember so many times I wanted to quit. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to say stop. I wanted to go back to what I used to be. You gotta push through that shit. You gotta tell yourself that no matter what gets in my way, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep winning. I'm gonna keep surviving. It's everything that you want because you went through that pain of that journey that felt like you wanted to just knock you down and say, you know what? You can't do it. Understand that it's going to be trials and tribulations. It will have storms, but they will have sunshine after the rain. But that depends on you and how bad do you truly want it. Nothing in life will hold you back if you trust in yourself and you trust in the process.
And at the end of this race, guys, you're going to be more capable. Through that effort, builds the character, the person you want to be at the end. Accept that.
Pressure does most people in. The weight of what it feels like to want to be successful every single day, over and over and over. It's just too much pressure. People crack. You got to persevere. You must insist that this is going to happen. You got to get in there and keep fighting. You got to be constantly at it. Everybody got to develop some dog in them. You got to say, I'm going to hang in here now. I'm going to hang in here. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to stay with it no matter what.
At the very end state, what really wins it isn't the potential of the person, it's the perseverance, the heartbeat of a person. That heart doesn't stop. The heart doesn't go 9 to 5 and then shut down. It's always beating, just like a true champion doesn't just exist in the arena, but exists everywhere else too. Those moments and inches that are won at the final hour that make or break a win or a loss aren't discovered there. They're discovered through thousands of hours in the training lab. When no one's watching, do you get up and run at 5 in the morning when it's pouring down rain? Is a person a character that values who they are? There's no half-ass here, half-ass there, and then when it matters, I'll give it my all. It doesn't work that way. Everyone wants it, but somebody wants it more.
Where does all the great that we have in our lives come from? It all comes from people who, in the face of massive adversity, decide that they're going to move forward regardless. They're going to make the thing that they want to happen no matter what anybody says, no matter how many times they get laughed at, no matter how many times they get called crazy, no matter what, they are going to make this happen. We have the ability to make the choice to be the person who rises above the if you keep making the choice to take the things that happen to you and turn them into good, productive things, there is no way that you cannot be successful.
None of us ever get through this life without heartache, without turmoil.
We're all going to fail at something. Everyone's failed at something.
Life is a trial, and trials are never supposed to be easy.
Life is hard. It's hard handling the tragedies of life. When you're working on something and you put everything you have in it, and it doesn't work out, you lose your money and other people's money. It's hard.
It is okay to be scared. It is okay to cry. But giving up should not be an option.
And it doesn't matter how you get knocked down in life, because that's going to happen. All that matters is that you got to get up.
Because when you fail, you get up, and then you fail, and then you get up, and that keeps you going. That's how humans are strong. Failure is an option, but giving up is not.
Find a way. If you believe and you have faith, and you can get knocked down and get back up again, and you believe in perseverance as a great human quality, you find your way.
You gotta have that resiliency over and over again.
You gotta make a commitment to keep stepping up to the plate and swinging for the fences. Every day, whenever you do what you do, swing for the fences. Understanding when you swing for the fences, sometimes you'll miss. Did you know Hank Aaron had twice as many strikeouts as he had home runs? But he kept swinging for the fences. Most times he missed. But when he hit it, he knocked it out the park. When it's your shot to do what you do, keep swinging it, keep striving. Change is going to happen in your life. Setbacks are going to happen. But a setback is nothing but a setup for a comeback.
The champions, it's not the potential, it's not their genetics. It's their perseverance to always show up, always willing to fail, because in failure, that's part of success. Success is not a marathon of life with just ups. Success is formulated through failures, through facing your fears, through falling down and getting back up. That's what creates the champion.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the Daily Stoic.
The 3 areas of training. There are 3 areas in which the person who would be wise and good must be trained. The first has to do with desires and aversions, that a person may never miss the mark in desires nor fall into what repels them. The second has to do with impulses to act and not to act, and more broadly with duty, that a person may act deliberately for good reasons and not carelessly. The third has to do with freedom from deception and composure and the whole area of judgment, the assent our mind gives to its perceptions. Of these areas, the chief and most urgent is the first, which has to do with the passions. For strong emotions arise only when we fail in our desires and aversions. Epictetus, Discourses 3.2.1 through 3a. Today, let's focus on the 3 areas of training that Epictetus laid out for us. First, we must consider what we should desire and what we should be averse to. Why? So that we want what is good and avoid what is bad. It's not enough to just listen to your body, because our attractions often lead us astray. Next, we must examine our impulses to act, that is, our motivations. Are we doing things for the right reasons? Or do we act because we haven't stopped to think? Or do we believe that we have to do something? Finally, there is our judgment. Our ability to see things clearly and properly comes when we use our great gift from nature, reason. These are 3 distinct areas of training, but in practice they are inextricably intertwined. Our judgment affects what we desire. Our desires affect how we act, just as our judgment determines how we act. But we can't just expect this to happen. We must put real thought and energy into each area of our lives. If we do, we'll find real clarity and success.
And that was the Daily Stoic. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Bishop Robert Barron.
Your being increases in the measure that you give it away. Put that on your refrigerator. Live by it. Every instinct in us says, no, take things to yourself. Hang on to them. Hoard them. Keep them. Make sure you've got enough. People want some, keep them at bay. That's your possession. But that runs counter to the basic logic of the universe, because the creator of the universe is love. We say God is love. Love isn't something God does from time to time. It's not one of God's attributes. It's what God is, right through. Love, therefore, is the secret. Love is the great mystery, the hidden truth of all things. And the way it works is the more you give of your life, that's what love means, to will the good of the other. The more.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, freedom in a political context means freedom from government coercion. It does not mean freedom from the landlord or freedom from the employer or freedom from the laws of nature, which do not provide men with automatic prosperity. It means freedom from the coercive power of the state and nothing else. Unquote. Ayn Rand, From Conservatism, an Obituary, from the book Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene.
From Rules for Radicals by Saul D. Alinsky. When you are trying to communicate and can't find the point in the experience of the other party at which he can receive and understand, then you must create the experience for him. I was trying to explain to two staff organizers in training how their problems in their community arose because they had gone outside the experience of their people. That when you go outside anyone's experience, not only do you not communicate, you cause confusion. They had earnest, intelligent expressions on their faces and were verbally and visually agreeing and understanding. But I knew they really didn't understand and that I was not communicating. I had not got into their experience. So I had to give them an experience.
And that was the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. And if you're a Democrat, you should vote Republican because psychological internalization is one of the central topological shifts of violence in modernity. Violence occurs in the form of a conflict within the psyche. Destructive tensions are born internally rather than discharged externally. The front is no longer located outside the ego, but within it. Civilization, therefore, obtains mastery over the individual's dangerous desire for aggression by weakening and disarming it, and by setting up an agency within him to watch over it like a garrison in a conquered city. Back in a minute. Thank you. And another situation where you got to listen carefully. This is, I'm going to play a little bit of a clip from Varney and Company of then Senator Kamala Harris asking questions of the then head of ICE.
The Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? Do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between sworn
I'm talking about perception.
Compared to the cake.
So, again, you have to listen carefully. He answered it wrong, or started to answer it wrong before she rudely interrupted him. But he started to answer it wrong. I do not see any parallels. Listen carefully. The way he should have responded was, there are no parallels to see. See, that's a big difference. The whole idea here for her and for anybody on the left, when they're asking the question, do you see, don't you see, those questions is to make you the problem. And they can make you the problem by having you confess that you are the problem. So when they ask you, do you see, and you say, well, no, I don't see that, you've just confessed that you're the problem. You are the roadblock. Okay. You can avoid that very easily by simply saying, there is nothing to see. Don't you see? There's nothing to see. Don't you understand? There's nothing to understand. That slams the door on the issue permanently. They can't go anywhere. They can't go after you and say, you're the problem, you're the issue, you're blind, or your ideology keeps you from seeing. No. You simply say there is nothing to see. Now what happens is they are in a put up or shut up position where they're going to either have to back up their claim or shut up. So again, Kamala Harris asking the don't you see question, and the head of ICE going ahead and giving her the easy victory by saying, no, I don't see. Because at first blush, you think that's the proper response. But it isn't. It's the second best response. The best response is there's nothing to see. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now we have the Robert Reich Corner. I follow him on Instagram because he presents a lot of opportunities for us to learn how to be a true conservative. Now, his latest post is an example of being a messenger. The left, one of their tactics and techniques is to try to be transparent. That means that you don't see them. All you see or hear is their message. And the idea is for you to engage them about the message rather than engage them themselves. So the way to fight that is to shine light on the messenger. Make the messenger the message. Talk about the messenger. So also in this one it's a great piece of propaganda because there's absolutely no documentation or references in terms of where he gets his information. So it's all, he demands that you take his word for it. So, and the message is, undocumented immigrants paid $97 billion in federal, state, and local taxes in 2022. They take on our most difficult and essential jobs while helping fund programs they can't even benefit from. Remember this the next time Trump demonizes the undocumented or calls them freeloaders. So again, I recognize this immediately as a true conservative as being nothing more than propaganda. So I'm not going to try. He wants to bait me into providing the facts. No, the facts are this, the facts are that, and waste my time and be frustrated. He's also counting on the fact that I don't have the facts right in my hip pocket, that I would have to go do research, etc. But the simple way to defeat this is one of two ways. Number one, I can taunt him and tease him, and he says, remember this, the next time Trump demonizes the undocumented or calls them freeloaders. And he, by the way, makes that sound as though, through tone of voice, as though that's like he's making an accusation, like he's accusing Donald Trump of something. I don't go for it. I say, that's right, he does. He calls them freeloaders, he demonizes them, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have no authority, no power, and you can't win, Mr. Reich. The other way to handle this in terms of putting him on the spot and making him the subject is to simply ask him, why haven't you done anything about it? You're some big shot. You were former labor secretary in the Clinton administration. You're this big muckety-muck in politics. Why haven't you done anything about it? Why haven't you made sure that the Biden-Harris administration has done something to fix this, to create a situation where things are more fair for the undocumented aliens? Have a nice day. And because you're going to hear about this, these are talking points for the rank and file. And so you go to work and you're going to hear people saying, quoting these statistics, 97 million to this or that or the other thing. Well, gee, how come Biden hasn't done anything about it? If these undocumented aliens are suffering in some way, why hasn't Biden done something to ease their suffering? Or again, Trump said that, so what? The two most powerful words, most powerful question you can have in your vocabulary is so what? Because it puts the burden of proof back where it belongs on the socialist like Robert Reich. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Chapter 7 of 13 Forgotten Mind Control Secrets by Ronald Gill.
Chapter 7, Mind Reading Techniques. As a young child, I used to wish I could read minds. Not in a supernatural sense, but in a way that allows me to grasp the thoughts, emotions, and motivations hidden beneath the surface of a person's words and actions. This is the allure of mind reading, a skill that, while not telepathic, can unlock a deeper level of understanding and connection in your relationships. In this chapter, we'll explore the techniques that can transform you into a skilled observer of human behavior. You'll learn to decipher the subtle cues that betray hidden emotions, unspoken thoughts, and underlying motivations. I like to think of mind reading as learning a new language, the language of human emotion. By mastering this language, you'll gain insight, not only into others, but also into yourself. You'll become more attuned to your feelings, motivations, and the subtle signals you unconsciously convey. You'll also discover how to detect nuances in vocal tone, pace, and inflection that offer clues to a person's inner state. By the end of this chapter, you'll be able to step into other people's perspectives, understanding their experiences and emotions as if they were your own. Mastering the mind-reading techniques I'll share in this chapter will enable you to connect with others on a more profound level through meaningful and engaging conversations. Understand the innate needs and desires of those around you, strengthening your bond with them. Anticipate reactions, diffuse tension, and build rapport effortlessly. Become more self-aware of your own emotions, motivations, and communication patterns. Mind reading doesn't require having magical abilities. You only have to master the art of paying attention. Forget fancy tricks. Watch how people move, speak, and look. It's like learning a secret language everyone uses but doesn't speak. Let's start learning to understand what people mean even when they don't say it. Types of mind reading. Mind reading in the context of interpersonal relationships is a skill that involves deciphering and interpreting the thoughts, feelings, and intentions of others. While it may conjure images of supernatural abilities, in reality, mind reading relies on astute observation, psychological insight, and an understanding of human behavior. This isn't about psychic tricks, but observation, deduction, and empathy. Your tools are keen eyes, and attentive mind, and intuition. Each expression, voice tremor, and posture shift is a clue to decipher someone else's feelings. It's about building understanding, anticipating needs, and navigating conversations with sensitivity. Misinterpretations are inevitable, but refine your skills and expand your emotional vocabulary with each interaction. Mind reading begins with keen observation. It's about paying attention to the subtle cues that people emit through body language, facial expressions, and even the nuances in their speech. A skilled mind reader becomes adept at decoding these nonverbal signals, using them as pieces of a puzzle to unravel the intricacies of someone's internal world. For instance, let's say you're engaged in a conversation and your friend exhibits crossed arms and a furrowed brow, despite saying everything is fine. A mind reader might pick up on these cues, suggesting that there might be an unspoken concern or disagreement. Furthermore, mind reading goes beyond surface-level observations. It dives into understanding individuals' underlying emotions and intentions. This involves empathizing with their experiences, recognizing patterns in behavior, and interpreting the subtle shifts in mood that may indicate a person's state of mind. For example, suppose a colleague expresses enthusiasm about a new project but hesitates to make eye contact. In that case, a discerning mind reader might sense an underlying apprehension or lack of confidence, which prompts being explored further. A crucial aspect of mind reading is establishing rapport with others. Building trust and creating a comfortable environment encourages individuals to express themselves more openly, providing additional insights into their thoughts and emotions. Consider a social gathering where someone initially appears reserved. A skilled mind reader can uncover more about that person's personality and perspectives by engaging in genuine conversation, expressing interest, and demonstrating empathy. Ultimately, the goal of mind reading is not to evade privacy, but to enhance communication and connection. When wielded responsibly, this skill fosters better understanding in relationships, promotes empathy, and allows individuals to navigate social interactions with a heightened awareness of the unspoken aspects of human communication. There are two types of mind reading: cold reading, hot reading. Let's explore what each means one by one. Cold reading. Cold reading is a skill set that enables you to understand individuals without prior knowledge or familiarity. It involves perceiving changes in behavior, using general psychological principles, and making calculated observations to draw accurate conclusions. When it comes to cold reading, your observational prowess takes center stage. Pay attention to body language, facial expressions, and gestures. These unspoken cues serve as the foundation for your deductions. For instance, crossed arms might signify defensiveness, while an open posture suggests receptivity. If you meet someone for the first time and they maintain steady eye contact, offer a firm handshake, and lean in during conversation, these nonverbal cues indicate openness and confidence. Calibration is a vital component of cold reading, requiring the ability to adjust your approach based on the feedback you receive. This involves fine-tuning your observations as the interaction unfolds, allowing you to refine your understanding of the individual. In cold reading, the use of general statements serves as a strategic tool. You create an illusion of personalized insight by employing phrases that apply broadly to most individuals. This technique involves tapping into shared human experiences and emotions. For instance, saying something like, "You faced challenges in the past, but have emerged stronger," is general enough to resonate with a broad audience, yet can evoke a sense of personal connection for the individual. If there's one thing that plays a crucial role in cold reading, it is suggestion. Through subtle cues, prompts, or questions, you influence the direction of the conversation and guide the individual toward confirming or revealing information about themselves. For example, while discussing hobbies, you might say, "I sense a creative side in you, perhaps an interest in the arts." This general suggestion encourages the person to share more about their creative pursuits. Establishing trust is fundamental in cold reading. Create an atmosphere where the individual feels comfortable sharing more about themselves. A warm and non-threatening approach fosters openness, enhancing the effectiveness of your reading. Remember that the goal is to enhance your ability to connect with others through astute observation and skillful interpretation of the cues surrounding you. Hot reading. Unlike its counterpart, hot reading doesn't rely on vagueness and suggestive statements. This technique takes a different approach, utilizing pre-existing information about the target individual or group to create the illusion of extraordinary insight or psychic ability. In essence, it's performed with a prepared script. Only the script is based on someone else's life rather than a pre-written play. In hot reading, the foundation lies in meticulous research. First, you research all available information about the individual through various sources, such as social media, public records, or prior conversations. This wealth of pre-existing knowledge allows for more targeted and specific insights. Let's say you've researched a person's professional background and discovered they recently received an award. Incorporating this information into your conversation can create a powerful impression and build immediate rapport. While engaging in hot reading, strategic questioning can be a precious tool. Craft questions that subtly lead the individual to reveal information without them realizing the source of your knowledge. This skillful interrogation allows you to seamlessly integrate pre-acquired details. Suppose you know from previous interactions that the person recently took a trip. Instead of directly mentioning it, you might ask open-ended questions like, "Have you had any interesting experiences lately?" to encourage them to share details organically. Additionally, hot reading typically involves confirming assumptions based on prior knowledge. Subtly incorporating information you've gathered allows you to guide the conversation in a way that prompts the individual to acknowledge or validate the details without explicitly stating their source. For example, suppose you know someone with a specific preference for a particular cuisine. In that case, suggest a restaurant known for that cuisine, allowing them to confirm their inclination without explicitly disclosing your prior knowledge. When you practice hot reading, you must ensure the following: confident delivery. Speak with conviction and certainty, even when making ambiguous statements. It can amplify the perceived accuracy. Selective reinforcement. Focus on statements that seem to resonate with the target and downplay the ones that miss the mark to reinforce the illusion of a successful reading. Emotional connection. Tap into the target's emotions through relatable stories or shared experiences to deepen the sense of connection and believability. Effectiveness in hot reading lies in the seamless integration of pre-existing knowledge with intuitive insights. By skillfully combining what you know with astute observations during the interaction, you create a personalized and resonant experience. It's vital to approach mind reading, be it cold or hot, with an ethical compass. Be aware of its potential impact and the responsibility of possessing foreknowledge. Empathy and understanding. Empathy is a learnable skill crucial for human interaction. It involves stepping outside your own experience to understand others. Rather than blind agreement, it's about acknowledging the validity of different perspectives. This effort transforms communication, creating a space for honest exchange by listening with both ears and heart. When a friend expresses joy, empathy enables you to acknowledge their happiness and feel a sense of joy alongside them. Empathy nurtures understanding, which requires patience and openness to diverse perspectives. It goes beyond feeling another's pain, recognizing the shared humanity that transcends differences. This recognition fuels compassion, fostering trust and rapport. It would be impossible to feel or express empathy without perspective taking, the ability to immerse yourself in the viewpoint of another. Perspective taking allows you to set aside your assumptions and judgments, embracing the unique lens through which someone else sees the world. For instance, if you get into a disagreement at work, empathy prompts you to say, "Help me understand your perspective better." This simple act opens a gateway to understanding. Empathy isn't a passive state, but an active force transforming relationships. Recognizing and understanding the emotions of those around you fosters a sense of trust and connection. Empathy serves as a bridge in personal relationships, connecting hearts and creating bonds that withstand the test of time. At its core, communication is an exchange of words and emotions. Empathy enriches this exchange by allowing you to grasp the feelings beneath the surface. When a colleague is concerned, responding with empathy involves more than saying, "I understand." It's about tuning into the emotions conveyed, saying, "I can sense this situation is causing you distress." Empathy creates a space where individuals feel heard and validated. In a world filled with noise, the ability to truly listen and understand becomes a rare and precious gift. As you listen empathetically, you communicate that someone's feelings matter, laying the foundation for open and honest dialogue. You pave the way for mutual understanding when you actively seek to understand another person's emotions and perspectives. It transcends differences, building bridges between diverse experiences and fostering a sense of unity. Conflicts often arise from a clash of perspectives, but they're usually quickly resolved with empathy. Empathy plays a crucial role in resolving disputes by providing a channel for mutual understanding. Instead of viewing the situation solely through your lenses, empathy prompts you to consider alternative viewpoints, leading to solutions that respect the needs and emotions of all parties involved. You should know that empathy and emotional intelligence are inseparable. One would be impossible without the other. As you know, emotional intelligence involves recognizing and managing your emotions and those of others. Empathy is the compass guiding you through this emotional landscape, allowing you to navigate with understanding. Empathy acts as the mortar in building connections, binding individual experiences into a sturdy tower of understanding. It's a practical skill honed through everyday interactions involving active listening, genuine curiosity, and a willingness to set aside personal agendas. In encounters with others, engage actively, ask open-ended questions, and embrace unfamiliar perspectives. You contribute to a world where understanding prevails through genuine efforts, enriching the human experience. Why do you need empathy for mind reading? Mind reading, often perceived as elusive, is closely linked to empathy and understanding. Empathy acts as a bridge, facilitating your journey into someone else's mind. It's not merely about recognizing emotions on a surface level. It involves a profound connection that allows you to share in the emotional experience of another. When you empathize, you create an avenue of trust and openness. This makes them vulnerable to a deeper exploration of their thoughts and feelings. As previously explained, mind reading extends beyond words. It involves decoding the other person's body language, micro-expressions, and other nonverbal cues. Empathy sharpens your ability to interpret these cues, giving insight into emotions and thoughts that the person may be concealing. Empathy and understanding create a safe and non-judgmental environment where individuals feel comfortable expressing their thoughts and emotions. Trust, nurtured through empathy, is the key that unlocks the doors to the inner recesses of the mind. When people feel understood and accepted, they are more likely to share their thoughts. Mind reading involves listening not only to the spoken words, but also to the unspoken narratives. With empathy, you can tune into the unspoken and recognize thoughts and emotions that the noise of everyday interactions may mask. Tips for observing and deducing. Observation and deduction are two formidable allies for people skilled in mind reading. Here are some tips to help you master both. Observing the dynamics of a conversation involves not just listening to words, but discerning the nuances within. Pay attention to tone, pacing, and emphasis. These verbal cues offer glimpses into the emotional undertones of the dialogue. Deduction thrives on contextual awareness. Consider the setting, the dynamics between individuals, and the broader context of the conversation. You can enhance your understanding of unspoken dynamics by deciphering the environmental clues. Patterns in behavior often hold valuable clues. Through consistent observation, Identify recurring themes or behaviors and note any anomalies. Patterns can provide insights into an individual's preferences, habits, and hidden motivations. Patterns emerge if someone constantly avoids discussing a particular topic or becomes unusually animated when certain subjects arise. Recognizing these patterns aids in understanding the person's sensitivities and priorities. Empathy plays a pivotal role in observation and deduction. You can better interpret another person's emotional state by putting yourself in their shoes. This empathetic connection strengthens your ability to read between the lines. As you cultivate observation and deduction skills, don't forget that genuine curiosity and empathy form the foundation of this skill. In the next chapter, find out how to leverage the power of suggestion and override belief systems.
And that was Chapter 7, Mind Reading Techniques from 13 Forgotten Mind Control Secrets by Ronald Gill. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now some Donald Trump.
One of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. You know, I went to a great school. I went to the Wharton School of Finance. And in that school, I met a lot of people heading industry today and over the past, very smart people. But I've watched some of the people grow. I've watched some of the most incredible, brilliant students. And they didn't make it like other people made it because they didn't have that drive. They didn't have that never give up ability. I don't know if it's an ability or if you have it. Just, you can't quit. And I've seen people quitting. And if they would have held out longer, they would have been successful. I've seen it so much. I've seen some of the most brilliant people in the world that never made it because they were quitters. They were just quitters. They would quit. They just couldn't take it. They couldn't, whatever. One of the things about loving what you do is that it's not work, and therefore you don't quit automatically. It's a lot easier not to quit. But you can never give up. Now, you have to also have flexibility, though. You can't necessarily say, I'm never giving up, and you got to be able to weave and bob. You don't have to go through a concrete wall when you can go over it or around it or under it or something. You have to have flexibility. You have to always be able to change course a little bit, maybe always with that same goal, but don't quit.
And that was Donald Trump. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.